Well, welcome back to another episode of Rocking Midlife, the podcast. And I'm particularly excited today as I have a very, very, very special lady on. And Angela has become a great friend over the last few years. In fact, we connected after I was interviewed on her podcast a few years ago. So it's kind of quite lovely now. Yeah, full circle. So Angela Raspass, is that how I say it? Because I never actually say your surname.
It's a weird surname, isn't it? It's actually pronounced Raspass. The emphasis is on the first bit, but it's a weird name. I married it. I wasn't born with it.
Nearly as bad as Coluccio, isn't it? But anyway, welcome Angela Raspass. There, got that? So I'm going to read your bio out really quickly because I want people to hear, because Angela is a really amazing lady and we're going to get into some good stuff today. So I'm not even going to try the surname again, but Angela is a business and life mentor for women in their 40s and beyond who are yearning to step into their next chapter, their full potential in business and life. In 2003, after a corporate career in marketing, events and sponsorships, she launched a marketing agency from her dining room table. I love it, girl biz, and grew it to a point where she bought an office in the north side of Sydney and had a small full-time team. By 2012, Angela realised she had created a business that leveraged her skills and experience, but no longer fully engaged her heart. It wasn't a fit for who she'd become, a woman utterly changed by overcoming addiction, reconnecting with her worth, and developing a new vision. So many things we can go just from this. My goodness. Once you've written a new story of enoughness and know your value, once you change from the inside out, it can never be business as usual again. Closing her agency and pivoting from consulting to mentoring, Angela now shares a potent blend of personal and business development tools that help her clients unearth, live, and work by what's true for them too, building a business that blends contribution, fulfilment, and financial reward. Angela lives in Bayview on Sydney's northern beaches, so Sydney is my old hometown, with a husband of 25 years and their daughter. Her son is studying at ANU in Canberra. So Angela is very much in that midlife zone of grown children who are going out and doing their thing. And like many others, you've reinvented, and now you help other women reinvent too, don't you?
Absolutely. And God, it's so funny when you sit there and listen to somebody else read out your bio. It's like part of you's going, yeah, I did that. And the part of you's going, oh, it's a really interesting experience. Because obviously I have a podcast too, like yourself, with your next chapter. And I'm used to doing that for other people, but it feels a bit different when you're actually sitting there listening to your own story.
I know, it's weird. I've had that in events too. And it's just like, sounds good. Yeah.
It's true. But it is everything that's there is absolutely true. Apart from the fact that our son is actually, of course, because of what's been happening with crazy pandemic, is our son's actually been home with us for the last 2 months, and my daughter, she's just gone back to school, but we had the four of us snuggled down in this little tight dynamic for the last few weeks, and I got to say I loved it. I loved it. I didn't like the reason for it because there's been a lot of pain, emotional, financial, associated with the COVID scenario, but to actually go in a little bit of slow motion and have everyone together again, it's just been really enjoyable.
Yeah, that's been kind of cool. We've had all five of us, all five adults here at home as well, because my son and his wife are flatting downstairs. And then, of course, we had our adult daughter up here with us. So we've been like you, all kind of squeezed in together.
Absolutely. But the reinvention piece, I guess, as you would have heard there in the story, is that I find that a lot of us women, we tend to, if we decide to go down the path of our own business, which I think women in their 40s and beyond, that potent, to use that word, blend of experience and skinned knees that we've had. You don't get to this age. Well, I'm actually in my 50s now. You don't get here without a wealth of experience that if we decide we want to, we can turn around and help people with that, channel that experience into a wholehearted business. Full disclosure, I'm a Brené Brown fan, so
I think just about every midlife woman is actually. She just has a way of articulating the common factors that we all kind of face, hasn't she?
And she's one of what I call a way shower. So someone who shows you what is possible. So she's my mentor. She might not know that, but she's definitely my mentor from afar.
Yeah.
But that whole idea of the skinned knees, the experiences that we have, and being able to channel that into a business. But we often hold ourselves back from like, well, really, what have I got to offer? So to speak, because of the conditioning I think that we've had growing up about what is of value, especially as a female. And as as the grey hair, as we've been talking about, starts to
we've both got lockdown hair happening here, by the way, folks. Haven't seen our hairdressers for a long time.
It's getting chopped again today, thank goodness. But there's that conditioning that we really need to overcome about what is valuable, because we have so much thrown at us as to what value is, and it's so often tied up in like youth and beauty and energy and all of those things. Okay, we might not have youth per se, but in terms of energy, wisdom, intelligence, experience, there is so much that we have to offer. And the most important thing, I think, is recognizing that the thing that you are attracted to, the thing that is calling you, that you want to gift to the world, is your thing. And to trust, I think the biggest journey for us is the journey into self-trust.
Yes.
Of like, I can trust what is going on the inside, and then I can share it with the outside. But we hold back for ages, or, excuse me, in my case, and I see this a lot, is I took my experience and went like, oh, I was in marketing, I will become a marketing consultant.
Yeah.
Actually analysing it, just looking at your skills. And hey, it served me well for a long time. I didn't want to go back into corporate world. My kids were small. But after, as you would have heard in the bio, after a while I realised that although I can do this, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Exactly, yeah. It's the same way, after homeschooling, I didn't want to go back into a classroom ever again and re-enter the teaching world like that, and ended up training as a personal trainer. So I was able to take some of the skills of being able to teach and everything, but totally into a different field. And I'd say you've done the same thing. You've taken those skills that you've learned from your marketing experience rather than taking the title marketer.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I just had a bit of a coughing fit there.
That's all right. You go for it.
Goodness for the mute button. Absolutely. So I think there's that concept of us waking up. Yeah. And realizing, and this is where I've actually created this model, it's called the Next Chapter Model of Change. And it's a pretty simple concept, but the first step in the model is discontent. You become aware that you're not happy, Jan, as we would say over here in Australia. And quite often...
It's my mum's name. Can I just add that at this point?
So specifically for her. So we get this feeling of discontent of like, I'm not, like, this isn't doing it for me any longer. Yeah. And then we begin to question that discontent, like, and often the voices that come up is like, well, how dare you? Like, just be happy with what you've got. Be grateful. You've got this and this and this, and so many people don't, and just settle down.
Yeah, and suck it up and stop pushing.
Suck it up.
Yep.
Suck it up, sweetheart, and stop pushing and keep going with it. And I definitely wrestled with that voice for quite a while. I mean, you look at the tickets of success. I had a great turnover. It had grown a lot. Yeah. I bought an office. I had staff. It's like, you're doing well. Just why do you not want to do this anymore? But the trouble is, once that voice starts of like not happy, want to change, you cannot help but allow yourself to imagine the other possibilities. And I think the biggest step when you're feeling the discontent is to give yourself permission to explore.
Yeah, I love that.
That critic starts to say, stop it, you should be happy. And it's like, but I'm not. And I don't want to apologize for that. And I feel I read
something a few years ago. I can't even remember what book it was, but it really was something that resonated, and you've kind of touched on it. And it was actually a book written for men at the time, but it said, at midlife, a shift starts to happen, and where you're not driven by wanting success anymore, you're actually wanting to do something of significance.
That was, I think we're talking about the same book, Wayne Dyer, The Shift.
Yeah, I think it might have been.
And that was actually one of my wake-up books, reading that. And it was the shift from ambition to fulfilment, basically, is what it's about, or significance, yes. And I think that's really important for us to look at the definition of success. What does it actually mean to us? And I think I can give an example that may help make this clear. I'm actually working with a wellness coach at the moment, really wanting to let go of all the stories about how exercise needs to be hard. go out or go home, and all the rules around how we mean to eat and that sort of stuff. And I'm loving it. But what we had to do was redefine my version of success when it comes to wellness, because so much of it is tied around a certain weight.
The scales,
and the scales, And she actually called me on this beautifully the other day. She said, well, hang on a moment. How are your energy levels? And I went like, they're actually really good. Like, we've been doing some mucking around with changing caffeine and lots of things and eating really healthily. My energy levels are really good. She went, how are you sleeping? And I went, actually, the sleep has improved enormously. I said, okay, and how are you feeling about yourself? And I'm like, I'm actually feeling really quite motivated. She went, okay, so success has many more parameters to it than just that step on the scales, where's the weight? I mean, yes.
Love it.
And I went, that is like a revelation. It's so funny. I work on this sort of stuff with my clients all the time. Not weight, but in terms of expanding your definitions of things. But it just reinforced for me again how important it can be at different stages to have a coach or a mentor beside you who can go, hey, look at it from this angle. And you go, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that. And so that idea of redefining success, as you were talking about, is incredibly important. I know I'd fallen into the trap quite a few times. So I'd look at somebody, press my nose up against their website going, oh, wow, they're so incredible.
Which is what I was just doing. I should add to everybody just before we jumped on this call, looking at Angela's website going, oh, wow, it's so wonderful.
I had a great designer.
Guilty of it.
So we're apt to do it. But the thing is, we don't know the story on the other side. And I know that I used to look at people who were traveling all over the place and building these massive empires, and my conditioned response was, oh, I want that. Quickly followed by, oh, but I'm not good enough for that.
I was going to say, it's that not good enough thing, isn't it?
It hits in so often. But the beauty is, as we mature, we actually start to wait. I believe that we have a reaction to something, and that is like, it just happens. We can't help the first reaction. But if we catch it, we can then become thoughtful. We can pause and respond. So in that space, now as a little bit more growing up, I can recognize the costs that were involved in that type of success, and was that a price I was willing to pay?
Yeah, that's right.
And quite often the people that I was looking at, their life was completely different to mine. Unmarried, no children, just as an example. They're unfettered. They could, jet off here and there. Would I want to? Well, no, I wouldn't have exchanged that chapter in my life for anything. But now a new chapter is emerging. My daughter's about to finish school in a few months. My son's already finished. I just got involved in a new venture, which is probably going to take me to some training in Portugal next year.
Oh, how wonderful.
If we're allowed. And now so I'm excited. Getting the vibe here. But the realization, I said to my husband, we can just go. We don't, it was like a mind-blowing moment. It was very cool. But so if we come back to that feeling of discontent, often it's because we have taken other success like parameters and said, okay, that's what I need to be successful. So if I looked at my agency, on the outside, it ticked the boxes. But on the inside, you lift the lid and you see the duck looks lovely on the top of the water, but underneath they're going like this.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what it was like. It was having the responsibility of staff and mortgages and insurances and very diverse client base, because as my expenses increased, I needed to go up the ladder in terms of the contracts and the projects that we were chasing. So the stress level increased. And I probably for 18 months, I battled with this, no, you can't change, it's failure. If you stop this, then you've failed, you can't hack the pace. That really quite nasty inner critic voice. Then I managed to get hold of it by giving myself permission. It's like, hang on, let's just look at this.
Isn't that permission thing a funny thing? Because, I know it's a big one for me. Someone said it to me just last year, Kat, you don't have to keep waiting for someone to give you permission to go out and live or speak or do whatever it is. But we do hold ourselves back waiting for someone to go, yes, it's okay, instead of trusting ourselves.
And don't you reckon that's got so much to do with that conditioning, almost like the good girl conditioning?
Oh, absolutely.
That we've been fed.
Yeah.
But you've hit the nail on the head. It's like, we don't have to wait for anyone else. And I actually, I went through some questions that were given to me by a really good friend about how to actually coach myself through the envisaging what might be possible if I changed. And finally I went, you know what, let's start to explore what else might be possible. So that's the next step in the model of change. The next one is desire. Okay, if you're discontent, that's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
You're not happy. Well, what would you want? And then we hit another minefield. So what do I want?
Yeah, that's true. I see women get stuck in that one too, because they're looking for the absolute perfect thing to manifest. And then I'll let go of what I know to go for that perfect thing. But it never works like that, does it?
It doesn't. No way.
Perfect thing there. That's where faith and self-belief and all those things come into it.
Yes. That's where we've got this big mix, and which is why we cannot do it alone. You and I spoke very briefly before we hit record about the importance of community. You know, I've mentioned having a coach or a mentor to help you through certain spots is a great idea, but community, whether you've created it yourself with like-minded colleagues, or whether you find a community to be a part of, it's so important.
Yeah, it is.
It's just, you can turn yourself inside out trying to work through these things, and that whole, okay, what is it that I want? And you'll get glimpses. And seriously, if you get quiet and you connect back to your values, I think that's some of the most important work we can do. So curiosity is what you need when you're in this desire. What do I want? You got to get curious. And some of the things to consider is, if I gave you a soapbox and said, get on that soapbox and tell me, like, what really annoys you? Where do you see, something is almost broken that you want to help fix? What's something that you could literally stand in Times Square on that soapbox and go, hear this, everybody? And I think you and I have a similar one in terms of the worth and the enoughness, which is an ongoing story that we women have to develop. But other ones is, be aware of your pits. Like, what have you traversed? What have you fallen into and gone through and overcome, and you've come up the other side a little bit, rough around the edges, with those skinned knees, but you've got wisdom to share. And I'm not talking about shoving it down someone's throat, like, this is the way, but you have insight. And if you can help shorten and sweeten the journey for someone else by sharing that from that place, that's part of what you may desire to do.
Yeah.
So that curiosity is so important. I mean, you heard in my bio, and you know me well, part of my story is overcoming addiction. Like, I got sober back in 2006 and everything changed, because at that point, and this is why worthiness is so important to me, because the story I was telling myself of who I was, what I was entitled to, who I needed to be, it was horrid. The voice, the dialogue in my head, you wouldn't talk to your worst enemy the way that I used to speak to myself. And I numbed myself for a very long time in fear. And when I actually finally, with help, stepped out of that place and recognized that, look, I don't get it perfect. No one does. And we can just get started right now, today, with what we have. Like, if I look at the business I have today versus the one I had in 2013 when I started again, they look nothing alike.
Yeah.
I didn't have, if I'd waited until I had, all my little ducks in a row and then said, okay, now I'm ready, the world would have changed again. My world would have changed again. So
the idea is you just took that action, didn't you? You didn't wait for permission. You didn't wait for it to look perfect. You didn't wait to know what the absolute end game was going to look like. You kind of took that action and
just gave it a go.
Yeah.
Changes. I let go of the agency. I kept a couple of clients, investor clients as I call them. So clients that I liked working with, but because what I've seen with a lot of people starting businesses is that the expectation they can put on the back of that business can break the business. That business has to be everything. It has to fill your heart. It has to fill your belly in terms of paying for it. It has to be fulfilling. It has to be purposeful, all of these things. And the poor little business is just a little toddler, and it has to carry all that weight. So I kept, well, I kept a couple of investor clients so I could still have an income whilst I was building this up. And I encourage people to, do that if you have that opportunity. Have a part-time job, or whatever it is. Once you're aware of what your financial imperatives are, then you can work around that. But that curiosity and trusting yourself, so important. Then the third step in the model is decision. Like if you just go between not happy, discontent, desire, deliberation zone, I call it, and we can spend years there, literally years.
Yeah, we can.
And you get cranky and you get sad and you get frustrated and it bubbles up and you take it out on other people. All sorts of things can happen. But the most important thing is that you are denying yourself. You're denying yourself. And the last thing you want to do is look back in the future and go, I never tried. I never explored that. So, because that's sad. That's that. Like,
so what do you see as some of the reasons why women get stuck in that zone? Like I know already a big one for me, which is interesting. I was talking about it with another lady that I was interviewing just recently, and that was wanting, because I love research and reading, it's getting stuck in that zone of always, oh, there's another course. Oh, I should do this. I can't start anything until I get more knowledge. And I can get stuck in that spot for so long. So what would be some of the other areas?
That's an easy one. Yeah, getting stuck in research. Because I love learning. I mean, my values, one of my highest values is growing and learning. So I can do the same. If you saw my bookcase and the hard drive of my computer with all the courses.
Yes, I'm a course junkie. I actually have a real issues there. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, in very simple terms, one of the things that you can do with that particular one is that you give yourself permission to do some learning at a certain time in a certain place. So I came across an expression once that I loved, which was just in time learning as opposed to just in case.
Oh, so that's cool.
What is it that I need now? What is the thing that I need to learn now, like to actually be able to move forward versus I'd like that and I'll just do that as insurance type thing. So for example, when I'm structuring my week, because I know part of my value is learning and growth, there is a chunk of time every week where I'm allowed to do that.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Thursday afternoon, like there you go. There's your chunk. Knock yourself out. Google to your heart's content. But let's keep it there. Otherwise it can start to expand and take over.
Yes.
So what else stops us from holding us back? It's and getting stuck in deliberation. It is comparison. The biggest one to me is the comparison trap.
Yeah.
We get stuck in that.
Women are good at that one, aren't they? Yeah.
So self-awareness is your superpower here. Recognizing, we feel it in our body first. Like especially, let's say you're on social media or you're Googling or whatever, or you're at a networking event and you're hearing someone now speak and you feel it, that like, that you hit inside and you start to, it hits people in different spots. For me, it's always my belly. It's like, gets me like a sucker punch. And it's like, you got to recognize it. And I love, there's a modality called acceptance commitment therapy or training. And what that does is that it helps you put space between you and the thought. So, you know the movie Alien, where that came out of your belly and like stuck on your face? Yeah. So if those sort of that comparison or the fear or whatever the story is, what we want to do is we don't want it stuck to our face. We don't want to be fused with it because it's very hard to like get on with life when you've got an alien in your face. Yeah, just a little bit difficult there. A little bit tricky. So ACT teaches us that to recognize, first of all, you'll feel it in your body. It's the body barometer. You'll always feel it there. Then the thought will hit, I'm not as good as, for example. Okay, and after the thought comes the feeling of that it's like it's pointless and then the inaction. Well, I'm not even going to try. I'm not ready yet. Yeah. Okay, so you recognize, first of all, the gut or the heart, wherever it hits you, and up comes the story. You give the story a name, okay, straight away. It stops you from fusing. We just want to create space. Oh, I recognize that there's that old story of you're never going to make it. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Okay, I understand, because it comes from your amygdala, the oldest part of your brain, which is your inner critics. It's her voice. It's her way of saying, uh-oh, danger zone, you're going to try something new. This could fail. Stop that. I've got to save you. Yep. Yeah. So she'll throw all these thoughts up at you, and it's up to us to catch them, recognize that there's that story again, because she's not original. She says the same shit all the time. Same old, yeah. And then we physically, like, you can use different techniques. One of them is singing this story to a crazy song, like, you know, the happy birthday song. Here I go, I'm not good enough again. I'm not good enough again. I suck, I'm going to fail. I'm not good enough again. And you can't take it seriously, especially with your singing. So you put it over there. Like, we're not saying that you're fighting it. We're not saying it's gone forever, because it'll keep coming back. But what you're saying is, I see you, I hear you. but I'm not going to allow that to hold me back. Now, that sounds really simple.
So that's kind of like practice. A pattern interrupt, isn't it? I used to do that when I was coaching a lot of the people at the gym, a lot of my women. And of course, the usual patterns that go through people's heads then are, I'm too fat, I can never do this, I'll never get fit, I'm useless, I'm so bad. And particularly the I'm so fat and I'll never be able to get fit type thing was always in these women's mind. And it's like what you said that your trainer identified with you. The reality was they were sleeping better, they were feeling great, they were lifting heavy things at the gym, they were making progress, but they still had that thing going. So in the end, we did the old rubber band on the wrist thing with them, and they had to actually snap it. Whenever that voice came into their head, they had to snap it. And yes, stung, but it interrupted that.
Interrupts
pattern.
It, yes.
Yeah.
All we're looking for is the space. We're just looking for the space so you don't, alienize it. And so part of that really helps is to give your inner critic, to personify her, give her a name. Like find an image that like you recognize as your critic. Like mine is called Horrible Helga in High Heels. Now, I'm sorry if you know someone who's a Helga. I'm sorry if it's your mum.
Apologies to the Helgas out there.
Apologies to the Helgas. I actually know a Helga and she's lovely, but it's just the voice, and the name. And I went and found an image online, and I could see her. I just Googled, and there's this classic glass on the end of the nose going like this. So I love that image. And that's my Helga. And Helga speaks in a certain voice. And Helga, here's the really cool thing, right? Helga only comes out to play, or whoever you call her, when you're on the edge of expanding, when you're on the edge of trying something new. Yeah. Because we don't compare if we're not considering change. We don't do this research if we're not thinking about trying something new. So that's when she puts down her knitting needles, leaps up and goes, no, panic button, we've got to stop her. Okay, so I talk about making peace with her. Yeah. What you resist persists. A lot of us have heard that. So I don't fight her. I thank her because she's trying to keep me safe. But then I reassure her, sit her in a corner on a comfy chair and keep on going anyway.
And keep going. Love it. Love it.
And I think another piece which is very important to this, there's so much we could talk about, but a very simple practice that I've been keeping. It was given to me when I first moved into the recovery movement, and it was keeping a gratitude journal. Yes. And again, it's not new, but it is life-changing. When you, every night, I'm not perfect, probably do it 90% of the time, but every night when you sit there and you ask your brain to think of the positive things that have happened, it starts to shift your brain chemistry. It starts to change, literally. The neurotransmitters that are bathing our neurons all the time is changing to positivity. And when I first started writing it was like the sun came up. I wasn't very grateful. I have food on the table. But as time went by, it became incredibly easy to notice the good things. And I also encourage my clients to note, and what's one thing you're proud of today? What did you do well? Not for anyone else, but what feels good that you did today? What sort of makes you go, And again, when you start searching for that and you start giving that lovely, beautiful brain of yours evidence that you can expand, that you can do things well, then you start to become a little bit braver. You start to become more connected to that inherent worthiness that can catapult us into the world. And you start to go, you know what, I'm going to give this a try. And then if you have a community and you see other people who are also just giving it a try and not getting it perfect. No, perfect doesn't exist.
No, not at all.
It's the actions of confidence that come first, and then the feeling comes later.
That's exactly right.
So that's how we move ourselves through it. And there's so many things that I get wrong. There's so many things that don't work out. And that's okay, because I can put it aside and try something else. It's not, I think sometimes we have this imagination that if things don't quite work out, if someone doesn't buy my thing, that's it. We've got to.
I'm stuck and I failed. Yeah.
It's all over. We have to detach ourselves. Get the alien off your face. Have a chat to yourself. Reinforce yourself with the fact that you actually gave it a go. Because there are so many people who just never step across the line.
Exactly.
Never step across the line. So encourage yourself. Unconditional encouragement to me is really part of this whole journey.
Oh, that's just wonderful. I love it. There's so many principles you've got there that are applicable to life in general as well as business. It's kind of...
Well, business is life, or as they say, business and life, they're just completely entwined. I sit at the intersection of self-worth and strategy. Like, we're talking about all the internal feelings and which are essential. We cannot ever expand any more than our regard for ourselves. We have, we are the person who is with us all the time.
That
relationship. That relationship has to be nurtured and grown. But then, yes, of course, you need to learn the strategy side, and I've been doing that for years. But I've seen time and time again that I can be working with someone around a strategic piece, or communication, or messaging, or your business model, or your website, or whatever it is, but it doesn't stick if you don't have that connection to purpose. Like, I'm here to help these people in this way, and I can do this. I am enough to do this. Without that, the strategy, it's just like, just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's just another to-do list, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got enough of those.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we so talk the same language, because living on purpose is the whole thing that drives me, and is so big a part of my messaging too, because I just believe when people are living out the purpose that they're created for, obviously the ripple effect is their lives are changed, their families' lives are changed, communities are changed, and that's how we see things happen. It's
absolutely,
yeah.
I think that concept of purpose, excuse me, sometimes it can trip us up. Sometimes we can feel like, oh, what am I here for? I want the gods to descend and the angels to sing and to give me my purpose on a tablet. But I think if we're gentle with ourselves there, most of us are already on purpose. It's the thing. It's giving ourselves again that permission to follow our curiosity. The things that we are naturally drawn to are purposeful for us.
Yes.
And I remember coming across, I can't remember who said it, I'm afraid, but they talked about purpose with a big P and a little p. And sometimes we think we need purpose with a big P. We've got to be Gandhi or Obama or whoever and really change the entire world. And then we feel deflated. But purpose with a little p, we don't need to change the world. We can change our world.
We
can change someone else's world.
We're singing from the same choir sheet, girl.
So it's that reassurance, isn't it? That don't feel that purpose is like this huge thing. It's in you. You're doing it now. Just be aware of what are the things that just make you feel more alive. Like, I know within my own business, and this helps me design the services that I provide. I hugely, like you, believe in connection and community. And so retreats and masterminds are at the heart of my business. So a mastermind, small group of women who are working together on their businesses over a longer period of time. Because of that connection and that real intimate type of service, those are service models that really work for me. If I tried to do a mass market, low touch, like self-study course, so to speak, it wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, it's not authentic to your brand and to who you are, is it?
Yeah, exactly. But to another person who has that desire to really meet and help as many people as possible, and they, by doing that type of delivery, that feels really connected to them, perhaps more introverted, that they want to create and then release to the world. That model is perfect for them. So I guess what we're saying here is there is no one size fits all. There are sort of principles. One of the principles is to have a clear message, and it's to be visible so your people can find you.
Yeah, that's right.
But there is
the whole thing in itself, isn't it? That's a whole podcast in itself.
We can definitely talk about business like in great depth and detail, but another time. But yeah, I think that's really important for us not to get stuck in this trap of there is the way, and I just need to find. I did this for so long. If I could just find the way, it'll all work. Well, there isn't the way. You see lots of examples of this worked for that person, and perhaps aspects of it, of that may work, but there is no formula. There's no secret. There is just trial and error. There's going in and listening and feeling what worked, what didn't, why, okay, what felt good, I'm going to follow more of that. Because I know for sure when I do more of the things that light me up and feel good, that enthusiasm is currency. That certainty and enthusiasm is very client attractive, and it's genuine. It comes from a real place of joy.
Yeah.
And when you come from that place, then, even if things don't always work out, you still had fun trying.
Absolutely. I love it. And there you go. That was all from the topic of how do you reinvent? What's reinvention look like? And all of that is all part of it. And at the end of the day, there are common denominators, aren't they, for women who are reinventing? Like you said, these situations they find themselves in, having to be curious and moving forward and all that. But it's still totally individual.
Well, that's the beauty, because if you think about the diversity of what's available to us in the world, bakers and candle makers and dentists and doctors and coaches, and if everyone had the desire to do the same thing, we'd have a pretty boring world.
Absolutely.
That's why we have to follow that thread. We have to follow the thing that's calling us, and sometimes it's really quiet.
Yeah.
And we're not sure if it's actually calling us. So that's where the permission to get curious and explore. And you don't have to design an entire business and jump into it. You can just try little tests.
Yeah.
You can just try little things and beta test things and see if it works, how it feels, how people responded. And then you get that feedback and you take the next step. And then you get that feedback and you take the next step. It's an evolution. It's not a revolution.
Yeah.
And as I said when we were first talking, if I look back and I consider where I started in 2013 to what I'm doing today, there's a similar theme, purpose that runs through it, which is helping other people connect to their enoughness, inspiring action in people. I want to be a catalyst. And I've always considered myself to be a link in someone's chain. I'm not the chain, I'm a link.
Yeah.
And then see them continue moving. So that same thread has always been there. I'm just expressing it in slightly different ways as the years have gone by. And it'll be the same for others as well. They'll see that thread, but you need to be looking for it, and being in good company and community encourages you to do that as well.
Beautiful. Oh, mate, there's so much gold in what you have to share, Angela. It's just, always love talking to you. It's just brilliant.
You obviously bring it out.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, there's no final, what point would you like to leave with everybody? Because you kind of just covered so much gold already in all these tips and advice. And gosh, is there one, I'm going to try and reduce it though, just because I can, hey? Okay, so is there one little final nugget that you would like to leave with the midlife person that's listening into this going, yeah, rocky midlife, yeah, it's good for all of them? What would be the one little gem that you would want to give to that person?
A gem and a gift. I'm going to give two things. So the gem, really, it's to connect to your knowing. Okay, it's to go inside. That feeling, that desire, it hasn't gone away. Like, you wouldn't be listening to this. You wouldn't be reading those books that you do. You wouldn't be continuing to search if the knowing didn't know that there's something more for you. And you know that if you don't just give it a try, you're going to feel disappointed. So trust the knowing. It's been trying to get your attention for a long time. Just today, take one step. If you've been thinking about becoming a health coach, just for argument's sake, what's one step that you could do today that takes you a little closer to that? We all start with one step. So that's what I would encourage. And the second one is that if I do actually have a gift. It's called Your Journey Board. So it's something that I created when I realized that when I was trying to decide what to do, when I knew that I didn't want to do what I was doing, I was like doing vision boards and all sorts of stuff, right? But you first have to look to your past, and you find the gold in your experiences that actually begins to point you in a new direction. So this is what Your Journey Board is about. It's a little self-study course. It's me, audio in your ear, and workbooks guiding you through how to look to your past and find the possibilities, how to get grounded in the present, in your own value, and how to create a purpose statement for going forward, a purpose and vision statement. So I'd love to give that to your readers. And they literally, if you just go to yourjourneyboard.com.au, that'll take you through to the page on my website where you'll find it. So that's what I'd like to give.
That's so generous. Thank you so much. I'll make sure all of those links will be in the show notes with this episode. So Angela, just so much gold. Like I said, so much. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insights and your beautiful, warm, vulnerable heart with us all. It's just been beautiful. And you're an amazing lady. And if people want to get in touch with Angela, it's just a matter of jumping on, following those links and having a conversation.
Absolutely. That's one of the things I enjoy the most, is having conversations of possibility, because so often the gold is right there.
Yeah.
You just need someone else to help you pan for it. And once you've found it, then off you go. And that's a delight when you can see that there is that possibility that someone can step into. It's lots of fun.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Angela.
You're most
Everybody
welcome.
else, let's keep rocking midlife together, hey? Woohoo!